fans. It's good to be back with you. Let's take a look at the data for our 2022 Reading Eagles pip and hatch watch information. This information is based on 15 prior seasons and is specific to clutches when 3 eggs were laid. Now let's look at one major notation for the interpretation of this data. 3 eggs were laid in mid to early February, as you can see in this upper left corner, now highlighted by the red. But 1 egg cracked and disintegrated on March 5th. Now, there is some discussion as to whether we know which egg that was or not. I am told that the first egg had a unique appearance, and some have hypothesized that it is more likely that it was the first egg that cracked than any other. So we'll discuss how that impacts this data a little bit later. But I also have this caveat, just in case it wasn't the first egg that cracked. I am looking at data as if any of the 3 eggs could be viable, although, of course, only a maximum of 2 are left and only a maximum of 2 can hatch. So let's kind of wipe that aside a little bit and not be quite so confused, and I will start getting into the data and clarify all the issues as we go. The pip and hatch watch in this blue highlighted section now within the red rectangle, the species nominal incubation, if you look it up in books or websites, is about 35 days for the bald eagles. So that is basically 35 days of full-time incubation. Now, eagles will often take the first and or second egg and incubate it less, and that is a natural tendency so that the eggs will hatch closer together and give all of the eaglets a better chance at survival. So if you look at the 35 days species nominal, then it would be a hatch of March 16th if the first egg was viable, March 19th for the second egg, and March 22nd for the third egg. But the data for this nest has rarely been in the 35-day category for any of our eggs. So let's go down and be a little bit more specific to the data for this nest. In the green highlighted area, we will see that our pip and hatch watch period for the first egg, based on nest data, is 37 to 40 days for a first egg in a 3-egg clutch, 36 to 38 days for a second egg, and 36 to 37 days for a third egg. So you can see the date ranges for each egg just below that. If the first egg is viable, we're looking at March 18th to the 21st. If the second egg is viable, we're looking at March 20th to 22nd. And if the third egg is viable, we're looking at March 23rd to 24th. Now, let's make even more sense of this. This whole area that you'll see our major notation there about 3 eggs being laid and 1 being lost. But we're going to look at the data for all 3 eggs just in case we don't know which one was lost. Okay, take a good look here in the red highlighted area. These are our calendar dates. And each one of these sections, for instance, the red highlighted section here, looks at probabilities if egg 1 is viable. So let's take a look at that. If egg 1 is viable, and many believe that egg 1 is the one that cracked, so if that is true, then none of this data would count because obviously the egg would be cracked. But let's just, for a moment, assume that egg 1 wasn't cracked and that it's viable. Based on past data, we can look at March 18th as the 37th day of that egg. And based on the data, it has a 12.5% chance of hatching on March 18th, the 37th day for that egg. We move a day later on March 19th. We have a 25% chance of it hatching on its 38th day. On March 20th, a 50% chance of it hatching on its 39th day. And on March 21st, a 12.5% chance of hatching on its 40th day. Let's go down and take a look at egg 2 now. If egg 2 is still intact and viable, meaning that it's living and capable of being hatched, then our past data would say that it has a 1/3 or a 33% chance of hatching on March 20th, the 36th day, a 50% chance of hatching on March 21st, its 37th day, and a 17% chance of hatching on March 22nd, its 38th day. Let's do the same thing for egg 3. If egg 3 is still intact and viable, based on past data, it has a 60% chance of hatching on March 23rd, its 36th day, and a 40% chance of hatching on March 24th, its 37th day. So if you look at these essential graphs here, we have some distinct days and periods when it looks like our eggs will be more likely to hatch. Now, let me throw in one additional element. It is entirely possible that the eggs could hatch either before or after these periods. This just reflects past data, and a hatch on a 35th or 36th day or 40 days is kind of stretching it, but let's say if there isn't a 0% chance of it hatching on the 41st day, if you're looking at all eagles, this data just looks at our nest. So in summary on that issue, yes, it's possible for hatches to occur before or after this data shows. So the one last issue I would like to leave you with is the possibility for 2 eggs to hatch on the same day, which is fairly slim. Let's assume that eggs 2 and 3 are still viable, which I don't know and which many believe is not the case. Eggs 1 and 2 are viable, then let's take a look at a single day like March 20th. If we look at that, we have a 50% chance of the first egg hatching and a 33% chance of the second egg hatching. By the data, you would say you have to multiply these probabilities. So you would say 50% of 33%, or essentially 16 or 17% probability of a dual hatch. Personally, I don't know if that happens. It has never happened in this nest. I'm just giving you what the statistics show. Again, for March 21st, which is the only other day that our nest statistics show that a dual hatch could occur, you have 50% times 12.5%, or essentially 6% chance of a dual hatch on March 21st. That would be neat if that happened, because both eaglets would be the same age and likely have a very good chance of both surviving. So if we exclude the first egg, as many believe that it is the first egg that cracked, then we are left with eggs 2 and 3. And by the data, there is no chance of a dual hatch, again, based on past data, but because there's a chance of the eggs hatching before or after the data that we've logged in the past, that again is a very small possibility. Anyway, folks, it's good to be back. Just took a much needed break, and I will give you an announcement on what I will be working on in the future, and I will make that announcement very soon. This is an exciting period, everyone. So there's a lot going on in our world that's not good. Let's take a few minutes a day and see some joy and innocence in nature. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be safe and be well.